Lots of today's papers are leading with questions about the future of Suella Braverman. I'll show you, it's really kicked off here. So let's have a look at some of the front pages, because obviously we now know that Downing Street didn't want her to write that article. More on that in a moment. Suella's future on the brink, says The Express. The Guardian, pressure on Sunak to sack her. Sack me if you dare, almost as if she's willing him to sack her, and he can't do it. Sunak calls sack Braverman, her fate in the balance. We've got the Mirror here. The sort of drawing, it's complicated. They fought and died for our freedom to think and to protest. Suella Braverman, how dare you try to take that away? So their cross, the Mail, totally different, as you'd expect from the Mirror, saying, if you come for Suella, you'll have to come through us. And I don't think that just means right-wing MPs. I think it means the Daily Mail as well. Labour leader Keir Starmer has got involved. He's accused the Prime Minister of being too weak to step in and sort her out.
He must know in himself that the role of responsible government is to reduce tension and to support the police in difficult decisions that they have to make. He's got a Home Secretary who's out of control, and he is too weak to do anything about it. That's the worst of all combinations.
He's not the only one who thinks that. Reports are circulating of Conservative MPs who want to see Suella Braverman get the boot. So there's the question for you today. Is Suella out of control? And is Rishi too weak to sack her? That's essentially what we're asking here. And, you do not want, as a Prime Minister, to be seen as a puppet of one of your own ministers. That is a bad look for a Prime Minister. Let's remind you how this came about. Yesterday's Times, was it just yesterday? Suella Braverman wrote a piece, and she was very rude about the pro-Palestinian protesters. She said they were angry, violence around the fringes. This is not a time for naivety. Terrorists have been valorized. She called them hate marchers, just down the bottom, hate marchers. And then she took a crack at the police. She says there's a perception senior officers play favourites when it comes to the protesters. They operate, she said, a double standard. So a real attack on the police. She's in charge of the police. Now, we made a joke yesterday. You remember that series, Now That's What I Call Music? She's made so many controversial comments. You could have a CD. That's what I call Suella, because she's made about 174 of them. But this latest one is a problem for her and for Downing Street, because they say, we didn't see the article. She sent it to us, we told her to take it out, and she didn't. And now you've got the briefings. Ministers, one said she has to go. Another said the Prime Minister needs a reset and to send a message. People are manoeuvring, but it's a fool's errand. So some off-the-record briefings. An MP from the centrist wing of the Tory party said she should be sacked. She's trying to get herself sacked. That's interesting. Rishi should oblige. It's already reflecting very badly on him. One other senior backbencher quoted as saying, he is too weak to sack her. So all of this rumbling on. Then this guy on the record, Bob Neal, respected Conservative chair of the Commons Justice Committee, said if he actually lances a boil here, he'll have the support of the vast majority of backbenchers and actually our party members in the country. Although we are a broad church, we still do respect loyalty. So he wants her fired. And then this one, last one. One former cabinet minister said she should be sacked because she's incompetent. Another said she's goading the Prime Minister into forcing her out. And here's the thing. I showed you the Mail. Here's their headline, because they are quoting right-wing MPs, her supporters, saying, if you come for Suella, Rishi, you come for us all. So they're suggesting that he, the Prime Minister, would have a rebellion on his hands. It's all looking a bit like the last days of Thatcher or Major or whatever. It's just chaotic, Callie. But what do you make of this? Do you think he should sack her?
I think there are two things going on here. One is what she is saying and whether it is in any way helping. It's inflammatory. I don't think anyone could say this is going to soothe the tensions. I think we're seeing that, using this kind of rhetoric is not going to help anybody in terms of the conflict that is already being felt. So it's what she's saying, but it's also how she's saying it. And if you look at I think she's the most out of control Home Secretary. I can't think of another one would remotely be at this level. And the point is, quite simply, if she's saying things that aren't authorised, if she's gone out on a limb, if, as is alleged, the article was submitted to be approved, she was then asked to make changes. She didn't make the changes. Yeah. What is the point of having a boss if your boss can't say, well, there are consequences to you not doing what is within your remit? So I think there are two things. What is she saying? Why is she saying it? Is she trying to get fired? But also, where's his control and how is she so out of control?
Well, I don't know, Nick. Well, firstly, tell us why you think he should fire her.
I think he's too weak, not because he's not going to fire her, because if he fires her, she speaks on behalf of the nation. He's too weak because, in my view, he should stop the demonstrations on this particular weekend, and that's where he's weak. And if he took the bull by the horn, introduced emergency legislation, we do not want any dilution or distraction to the millions of people who gave their lives for this country, so that people have the right to protest. So, yes, you have a right to peaceful protest. These marches are full of different organisations. You've got the far right coming down. You've got you've got terrorist infiltration. There's going to be a huge explosion, irrespective of the timing and the place.
Well, I hope not.
So, if you look at the ingredients of the people who are on the march, there is bound to be trouble. And in my view,
this is separate to Suella, but you would ban the march and then get the poor old police to arrest everyone who turns up.
Yeah,
300,000 arrests.
If you ban the march, there's emergency legislation in place. This isn't a job for the Met. Rowley to make a decision. It's too big for him. The government needs to get it.
Okay, but it's such a mess, and she's the Home Secretary. Do you think he should sack her just, as somebody said over there, she's just incompetent?
I don't think she's incompetent. I think she's doing a fantastic job, and I think I think what she's doing, the reaction to what she's said demonstrates how out of touch the Tory party are.
That's interesting.
To the country and the voice of the country. And there's one other point. Starmer, they're all playing politics. Starmer held senior office in Corbyn's government. He was a virulent anti-Semite, and he Corbyn, not Starmer, Corbyn, but he never resigned. All of a sudden, he's a man of principle.
Okay.
Are you saying, Nick, though, so you're saying that you think Suella Braverman is voicing the opinions of most of the nation?
Yeah, I am.
I don't agree.
Let's get some calls. I hear you. It's really interesting, because if she is, it's much harder to fire her. Gary in East Yorkshire, do you think she should be fired?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
Why, Gary?
Well, it's the full government's corrupt at the moment, every bit of it.
Well, no, hang on a minute. That's not why she should be fired. That you think they should all be fired?
Well, she's showing her true colours out in public. The rest aren't. They're hiding it and getting other people to hide it for them.
Yeah, but Nick says that actually what she said is what most people think.
But when they say most people, they're just asking their friends. They're not asking the real public. The real public are fuming. If they used to go out with microphones in streets and ask people, they don't anymore because they're frightened of the answers.
That may be true. Thank you, Gary. Tommy in Kent, do you think Rishi Sunak is too weak to sack her?
No, I don't think. I think why even the question? The fact that she's there, she's doing the job, she says it the way it is. Is it because the fact that she's a woman of colour, they want to have an attack on her? I mean, obviously, we're living in a country that's multicultural. So we're going to have different religions, different people who have various opinions, and they're bringing their issues from abroad to here. So,
well, hang on. If Rishi Sunak sacked her, that wouldn't be an attack on a person of colour, would it?
Basically, I think that the whole situation is, why do you need to sack her?
Well, OK, I'll give you an answer. Sunak is the boss. She sends this article to Downing Street. They say, right, it's OK. We don't like it. It's OK if you take 8 lines out, I'm guessing. Yeah, she says, thanks a lot, and she sends it to the Times with the 8 lines still in it. That's why you fire her.
But the point is, we have a Remembrance Day coming up. We have it once a year for a very special reason. So she's just asking that we don't have the protest by the Palestinians situation, which is, it's terrible what's going on there. Nobody mentions the fact that the foot is on the throat of the people in that area and in the West Bank, and what they have to put up with for years. What the Hamas has done is terrible, but the bombing is indiscriminate. And the UN and the US is typical. They're not doing anything to stop it. The Americans are sending 2 great aircraft carriers.
We've talked about that a lot, but also that does suggest supporting the right to march. Thank you, Tommy. After the break, more of your calls on whether Rishi Sunak is just too weak to sack Suella Braverman, partly because this from the Mail today looks like a threat.